Uninvited. My dad's wife from my daughter's birthday after her surprise Cinderella act caused chaos last year, fearing a repeat performance. For context, my dad has been with Kathy for a little under 15 years. She's technically his third wife, and ever since she became a part of our lives, her presence has come with a fair share of drama. There's always been this underlying insecurity about her place in our family, constantly needing reassurance, sometimes in ways that leave everyone else exhausted. The neediness, the theatrics. It's almost like she survives on bursts of attention. My daughter's 6th birthday is fast approaching in February, and my husband and I have started planning her party. Last year, we threw this magical Cinderella-themed party at our home. My dad arrived solo, telling me Kathy was staying homesick. At the time, I brushed it off, but there was a weird feeling I just couldn't shake. Near the end of the party, Kathy made her grand entrance, dressed to the nines in a Cinderella costume, acting completely in character, fluttering around the room trying to entertain the kids. Neither my husband nor I had any idea she was planning to do this. The only thing she had mentioned weeks prior was a casual, "Are you going to hire any party performers?" It was only later I discovered she'd bought the costume as soon as she found out the party theme and decided to surprise my daughter. No heads up, no coordination with us. Looking back, it was painfully obvious the whole performance was for attention. My daughter recognized Kathy the second she walked in, so the magic was pretty much lost for her and most of the kids. Instead of delight, it caused confusion. Her dramatic arrival coincided with cake time, and some parents were trying to gather their kids and say their goodbyes. There I was, suddenly juggling a dozen bewildered preschoolers. Things eventually calmed down, and my daughter still had a wonderful birthday, but my husband and I made it clear to Kathy that we never wanted a repeat performance. She apologized and promised not to do it again. Or so I thought. I can't shake the sinking suspicion she's gearing up for another encore. Over the holidays, whenever we spent time with my dad's side of the family, Kathy somehow kept steering conversations back to the whole Cinderella episode, laughing about the entrance, showing off photos, going on about what she'd change if she did it again. She kept questioning my daughter about this year's theme, even asking how she'd feel if a character made a surprise appearance at her party. The whole ordeal felt like foreshadowing, and the last thing I want is to relive last year's chaos, especially since we're having this year's party at a venue with a strict time slot. My husband and I sat Kathy down, explained our concerns, and asked her directly not to pull another surprise. She didn't deny planning something, but instead kept pushing how much the kids would love it, insisting it would be harmless fun. We pressed her to promise she wouldn't do it, but she just dodged the request, acting as if she couldn't understand why there was even a problem. Finally, frustrated, we told her it would be better if she sat out the party itself and joined us only at dinner afterward. Now Kathy is upset, and my dad is fuming, accusing us of being paranoid and over the top. I keep questioning if maybe I'm taking things too far, but with everything I've seen and heard, I'm almost certain she's plotting another attention grab. I can't risk chaos at my daughter's party, not with so many kids, tight timelines, and the memory of last year's confusion hanging over us. The whole problem isn't that she wants to dress up. It's bigger than that. It's the fact that she won't warn us or let us prepare. Last year, one little girl left the party in tears because her parents had to leave right after Cinderella arrived. I'm responsible for this event. I need to know what's happening so I can actually manage the party. Kathy isn't the worst boundary crosser in my family, but she has a habit of doing what she thinks people should want, rather than what they actually ask for. My kids like her, but like is the right word, they don't adore her, and last year's performance didn't help. She's the type to ignore the offers to help set up party favors or write invitations. None of the behind-the-scenes work interests her. She only wants the spotlight. We've made our boundaries crystal clear, time and again, but Kathy dodges every attempt to get a straight answer. Instead, she repeats how sure she is that the kids would love her act. She refuses to acknowledge how complicated this makes things for us as parents. My fear is that she'll show up unannounced in a costume again, throwing off all our planning and possibly upsetting the kids, again. There's also the matter of her insecurities. Kathy entered the picture when my dad's kids were already adults, and by then, the family couldn't have been less interested in analyzing another of his relationships. It's like she's desperate to assert her place, and the only way she knows how is by making herself the center of attention, allergic to not having eyes and ears on her, as my husband perfectly puts it. Raising kids has only made this side of her worse. So that's where I'm at, caught between not wanting to exclude someone from a family event, but even more determined not to let anyone hijack my daughter's party. Update 1. I have this love/hate relationship with always being right, and sometimes I really wish I weren't. 2 days after everything happened, my dad called me. He told me, half sheepishly, half amused, that there's this purple wig at his place. Not just any wig, either. It's styled in a way that looks suspiciously similar to Rumi from K-pop Demon Hunters. He admitted he opened Kathy's mail by accident, assuming it was his, and that's when he found it. The actual costume isn't even there yet, it's set to arrive in about a week. Apparently, Kathy had no plans to tell him about either one. He tried to play it off, of course, claimed they fought about it, since neither the costume nor the wig were cheap. But then he couldn't help himself, he started waxing poetic about how Kathy's been watching the movie repeatedly to study, and isn't it just so sweet how much she loves my kids? Isn't it sweet that maybe, just maybe, my daughter would like it this time? That was the point where I had to leave the call and hunt for a pillow so I could scream into it without traumatizing anyone. I am so completely done, way angrier than I should be. But honestly, this isn't the first time a member of my family has decided my plans and effort mean absolutely nothing. If I can't even orchestrate my own child's birthday without someone swooping in to claim center stage, then I certainly don't have to feel bad about finally drawing a hard line. So, Kathy is out. Officially banned from the party. My husband and I wasted no time. We called the venue, explained that we didn't hire any character performers, and if a suspiciously Caucasian-looking Korean pop star in a purple wig shows up, they are to send her right back home. We even gave them a photo of Kathy, just to be sure. The venue assured us that no one not on the guest list is allowed inside anyway, so I felt a little lighter about that. One less thing to stress over. Honestly, I hate that I had to drag a third party into my family drama, but at least I have one fewer anxiety trigger to juggle. Of course, my dad and I fought about it. He kept saying it wouldn't be a big deal if I would just let Kathy have this. I put my foot down. It's not the point, I argued. He's not the one who would have to handle the aftermath with a bunch of confused, upset kids. He doesn't get to downplay how hard it would be. We did, eventually, hammer out an agreement. Dad can come to the party, so long as Kathy is nowhere in sight. If she shows up with him, they both leave. I don't care. Later, both could still join us for dinner, but the party is off limits to Kathy, in all her would-be pop star glory. I'm now seriously considering lowering my contact with them both. I love my dad, I truly do, but some headaches just aren't worth it. I'll wait until I'm calmer before deciding exactly what kind of boundaries to put in place. Through all this, I feel thankful for everyone who listened. Life's been a bit much lately, and with my therapist on vacation, I really needed to vent. Now, though, it's time to focus on relaxing for a while. Knowing this is over, I already feel lighter. And in case you're wondering, this kind of thing happens a lot, even when my dad disagrees with Kathy. But this? Not the same as the usual. If she just showed up at a party full of small kids out of nowhere, history could so easily repeat itself. If she prances into a family-only dinner at a restaurant in costume, then at worst she gets to embarrass herself. No children confused, no birthday ruined. But if you let these oversteps slide, they only get bolder next time. Not anymore. Not on my watch. Update 2. The party happened today. It was as close to perfect as a room full of 6-year-olds and industrial quantities of frosting can be. The venue did what venues do best: loud music, a staff member in a glittery blazer who can coordinate children like an air traffic controller, cupcakes handed out with the efficiency of a military operation. My dad showed up on time, alone, with a gift he said Kathy picked out, sparkly headphones, and a face that wouldn't make direct eye contact with mine. I remember thinking, maybe, just maybe, we overprepared. At the 45-minute mark, the manager tapped my shoulder and asked me, very gently, if we were expecting a delivery. I said no. She glanced at the front windows. I turned and saw purple. Not inside. Outside, just beyond the property line, was a folding vinyl banner that read Pop Star Party. In glittery letters. Bubble machine chugging. Ring light on a tripod. Portable speaker blasting a sanitized K-pop playlist at medium volume, like someone trying not to disturb the neighbors while still disturbing the neighbors. And in the center of it all, a suspiciously Caucasian-looking roomie, purple wig and all, striking poses to nobody in particular. Kathy had found the one square of sidewalk they couldn't control and built herself a stage on it. I felt the way you do when your stomach drops on a roller coaster, except without any of the fun. The kids spotted her almost immediately, faces glued to the glass, tiny hands smudging the windows. A few squealed. A few looked confused. One child announced to everyone, "That's not the real one. My mom said the real one lives in Korea," which would have been hilarious if my blood pressure weren't currently auditioning for space. My dad went pale and then pink and then tried to melt into the play structure. He took out his phone and said, "I told her not to do this," while clearly texting her. The manager moved fast. She brought down the blinds on the lower half of the windows and told her staff to keep the kids focused on the activity stations. My husband went to the door. I followed. We stepped outside into a bubble fog and feedback squeal. Kathy saw us and lit up like a stage light. "I'm not coming in," she chirped, as if this were the respectful compromise of the century. "I'm just here to give a little show when they're leaving. 10 minutes, tops." "You're not giving anything," I said. "We told you. You're not doing this." "It's harmless," she said, doing a spin that sent the wig sliding a centimeter. "Look, I have choreography. I watched the movie 3 times last night. I just want to make them smile." Across the sidewalk, a guy I'd never seen before put down a camera bag and started assembling a lens. Kathy glanced at him and waved. "Oh, that's Jacob. He's doing candids." I stared at her. She smiled like we were partners in a surprise proposal. "You hired a photographer to take pictures of random children," I said. It came out flatter and calmer than I felt. My husband stepped between the camera and the door and told the man, "No pictures of kids. Pack it up." He looked at Kathy. "I wasn't told that," he muttered, but he put the camera back in the bag. Kathy stamped one heeled sneaker and whispered, "You're ruining this." Parents started lining up inside to collect their kids. Some had already clocked the purple wig circus outside. One dad mouthed to me through the glass, "Do we have to go through that?" The manager shook her head and redirected the exit to the side door. Kathy saw this and did a little hop of indignation. "I'm literally not on your property," she called, like she'd learned a new legal phrase and wanted to try it out. Then my dad joined us outside. He wouldn't look at me. He addressed a point somewhere near my shoulder. "She's already here. Let her do one song. Then she'll go. Or, you could both go," I said. The part of me that usually tries to de-escalate had clocked out. Kathy switched tactics. She softened, eyebrows tilting up under the wig. "Sweetie," she said to me, and I nearly laughed because no. Think about how much she's going to remember this. I brought goodie bracelets. She held up a bunch of plastic bangles in colors that, yes, matched the theme. "I put them together myself," she added, as if that detail could rewrite history. What I didn't know until later, earlier in the week, she'd messaged a few of the moms from last year, people she'd added on Facebook after the Cinderella incident, and told them there would be a bonus surprise outside after the party. So while we were negotiating on the sidewalk, I watched two families peel off and head toward her, kids' eyes round as saucers. That made my choice simple. "We are not doing competing exits for my kids' party," I said. "You're done. If you don't leave, I will involve security or the police." Hick. The manager had already called their security guy, who came out, young and polite and very much not paid enough for this. He explained calmly that if she kept filming children without parent consent on their premises, they'd have to trespass her. She took 2 theatrical steps backward onto what she believed was safety. "Public sidewalk," she sang, doing another spin. Behind me, a tiny voice said, "Mom?" My daughter had walked over with my husband's mom, who, bless her, runs toward mess rather than away from it. She pressed into my side and looked out at Kathy like she was a storefront display. "Is that Kathy?" she whispered. "It is," I said. "And it's okay to wave. We're going back inside to open presents." She thought about it. She lifted her hand and gave the limpest little wave I've ever seen. Kathy beamed. "Happy birthday, pop star," she chirped. My daughter looked up at me and then at the cupcakes on the table and decided, like a tiny general making a strategic retreat, "I want to go open my gifts." Then she took my hand and tugged me back inside. It should have ended there. It didn't. As the party wrapped up, parents had to navigate around the spectacle. 2 kids burst into tears because their parents wouldn't let them stop for a sidewalk concert. One mom told Kathy she was inappropriate and then told the Jacob guy she'd call the police if she saw him take one more picture of any child. He left. Kathy, faced with shrinking audience and a sinking sun, turned the music down and went for pathos. "Maybe next year." She trilled to a kid who had no idea who she was supposed to be. When it was finally over and the last cupcake wrapper had been scraped off the floor, I canceled dinner. I texted my dad 3 words, "Dinner is off." He texted back, "Overreacting." 10 minutes later, Kathy posted a filtered photo in full purple wig with a caption about being silenced by jealousy that my sister sent me because she knows better than to assume I'm still on social media. My dad called. Voice low, "She wasn't on the property," he said. "You made a scene." I told him my 6-year-old did not make a scene. She made a choice to stay at her party, with her friends, without being dragged through a pop-up meet and greet run by a grown woman who can't tolerate not being the main character for 2 hours. He swallowed hard enough for me to hear it through the phone. "She just wants to be part of things," he said. I told him being part of things requires listening to the people already in them. Here's where I'm at now, I don't have to think about whether I overreacted. I watched what happened when we tried to set a boundary and got a sidewalk stage show for our trouble. My husband and I agreed, no more kid events with them. School plays, parties, sports, recitals, if they're there, we're not, and vice versa. If he wants to see the kids, it will be at our house, with no surprises, and if there's even a whiff of a wig, the door stays closed. I put my daughter to bed tonight and she whispered, conspiratorially, "Do you think Kathy will dress up for Valentine's Day?" I laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Not for us." She hummed the chorus from the playlist the venue used and conked out in about 2 minutes, glitter still stuck to one eyebrow. I'm writing this with a half glass of wine and quiet in the house and a bag by the door holding a purple bracelet that somehow slipped into my coat pocket. It's cheap and already losing its shine. When I held it, I understood exactly why this feels like more than a party rule. It's not about a wig or a character or a sidewalk. It's about someone insisting on rewriting other people's moments to suit herself, even when you say no. Update 3. This morning started with a link and a knot in my stomach. A mom from the party texted me an Instagram reel, purple wig, bubble haze, a caption that read booked and busy. Pop star parties launching soon. Thank you to my daughter's name's family for having me. The venue sign was visible over her shoulder. 2 kids flashed past in the reflection of her ring light. Mine wasn't one of them, thank God, but one neon sneaker with the exact bead charm my daughter picked out last week might as well have been a fingerprint. I didn't bother with a polite DM. I called the venue manager. She had already reported the account for filming minors without consent and sent a note to their legal team. Then I tracked down Jacob, who turned out not to be a predator but a painfully earnest wedding shooter Kathy found on Facebook Marketplace. He answered on the second ring and said a string of apologies that tumbled over each other, said he'd already pulled the clips and would send me a statement if we needed one. He forwarded me his email chain with Kathy. Subject line, portfolio clearance / pop star concept. She had signed his contract, digitally, with my last name. I called my husband at work and listened to my own voice try to be calm. He had the better idea. He texted his coworker's wife, who is an attorney and also a human pit bull when crossed. She sent a formal demand letter and CC'd the venue and the photographer. 10 minutes later, the account went private. 20 minutes later, Kathy reposted the same clip on her personal Facebook with a caption about haters trying to stifle creativity. My sister, who knows to screenshot first and laugh second, sent it to me before it disappeared. The little progress bar at the top of the video looked like a countdown on a fuse. I was still deciding whether to crawl into a sweater and live there when the school called. Office line, calm voice. Hi, just checking, do you approve of Valentine's pop star workshop for daughter's class on the 14th? We have a Kathy on the volunteer interest form saying she's your stepmother and can provide age-appropriate choreography and PR-ready candidates. We wanted to make sure that was sanctioned. She had written my daughter's teacher's name in glitter pen on a flyer. She had listed my kid as a featured birthday girl like it was a concert credit. I took a polite breath and used my good phone voice. No. Please put a note in the file that no outside performances happen for my child without written consent from me or my husband. And no photos. The office aide let out the tiniest laugh and said, understood, in a tone that told me this wasn't her first rodeo either. She also mentioned that the district requires background checks for volunteers, which Kathy does not have and will not be getting. I thought I had earned an hour of silence. Instead, I got a knock. My dad on my porch, bareheaded, winter jacket unzipped like he'd run from the car. He held a pastel bakery box and an envelope with my name written in, of course, purple gel pen. Peace offering, he said. His eyes were red around the rims, and for a second I felt a wash of old, stupid sympathy I didn't want. Is she in the car? I asked. No, he said. I told her I'd try to fix it. She's upset. She's upset, I repeated, because sometimes you have to hear the words out loud to confirm you haven't fallen through a trapdoor. He asked to come in. I said no. We stood there breathing fog at each other like two angry dragons. He held out the envelope. I didn't take it. He set it on the porch railing next to a frozen geranium. She wrote an apology, he said, and his voice snagged on the last word. She says she just wants you to understand. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A DoorDash notification. Your pop star Valentine kit has arrived. Photo attached. A white gift bag with tissue paper the exact lavender of the wig, sitting 2 feet behind my dad's shoes. Apparently she had sent it to surprise the little star. Inside, a child-size ultraviolet wig, rhinestone jacket with my daughter's name across the back, a printed performance schedule for the 14th with block letters that read, School, 12 p.m., 5 minutes demo, outside if necessary. And, because I no longer live in a world where this surprises me, a stack of glossy postcards advertising pop star parties by Kathy with the venue's exterior visible and a scene at, my daughter's party, in italics. I handed the bag back to my father. My hands were very steady. Take it, I said. All of it. His mouth did this little fish thing, opening and closing like he had 5 different arguments and couldn't catch one. She's trying to build something, he managed. You don't have to like it, but do you have to ruin it? I said, she doesn't get to build it out of my child. He said, she thought the sidewalk. I said, I know what she thought. I'm telling you what happens now. Caitlin, and yes, I used her full name, I'm not going to pretend she's a comic book character, is blocked on everything. If she contacts our kid again, it's harassment. If she shows up to school, I will meet her there with the principal and a police report. You can see your granddaughter here, with notice, without her. If you bring her, the door doesn't open. He stared at my mailbox like it might have a better answer. Then he nodded, once, a tiny, broken hinge of a movement. She'll say I didn't stand up for her, he said. Not to me. Just to the air. I told him standing up for her and laying down next to her aren't the same thing. He did the oldest dad thing he knows how to do and tried to hand me a macaroon. When he left, I picked up the envelope because I'm not a complete monster, I don't need to pretend I'm not curious. The apology was 3 pages of purple cursive that managed, impressively, to say sorry without conceding any cause for apology. I'm deeply hurt you didn't see my heart, it read. Sometimes people with big hearts don't read rules like other people do. There was also a contract, printed, highlighted, for a discounted family rate should I choose to book her services in the future. She had circled non-refundable deposit. I set the contract on fire in the sink. It curled up like a little witch hat and died. Things moved quickly after that. The venue's lawyer sent a short, lethal paragraph. The reel disappeared entirely, and so did the business account. The photographer emailed me a formal apology and a refund note, and then, because he's 22 and still thinks the world can be fixed if you're sincere enough, a link to a Google Drive where he'd already deleted every shot with a child in it. He also sent a screenshot Kathy had texted him. A media kit with my daughter's name spelled wrong and open to sponsorships. Across the bottom. By dinner, my sister had heard through the family grapevine that Kathy was blaming me for tanking her launch and my dad for letting me. He called again. He said he needed time. I told him take all the time he wants, quiet isn't a punishment over here. I put my daughter to bed under a string of paper hearts she cut out herself with safety scissors. She asked if she had to wear the jacket. I told her it was already gone. Good, she said, burrowed down, and fell asleep with one arm flung up like a conductor. The porch is empty now. The purple gel pen envelope is ash. The only thing left from the sidewalk is a faint ring of soap where the bubble juice dried, which my husband hosed away while I was brushing teeth. He stood in the cold in his pajama pants and a parka, and when he came back and he said, "There. No more residue." Update 4. Valentine's Day happened like a knock-knock joke with a cop at the punchline. At 10:17 a.m., my phone lit up with the school's number. The principal's voice was so level it made me sit down. "We've moved to a controlled release for the noon window," she said, which is educator for we're not freaking anyone out, but we're also not idiots. A woman in a purple wig had shown up at the front office with a clear backpack and an 8x10 headshot of herself. She introduced herself as my stepmother and asked where she could stage the demo. When they told her no, she produced a flyer with glitter pen hearts and asked to put it in teacher mailboxes. When they told her no again, she went outside and set up a ring light on the sidewalk and a small speaker that echoed through the breezeway like a karaoke machine coughing. The SRO handled it with the kind of gentle boredom that comes from doing this job long enough to have no adrenaline left. He told her she was not allowed to film children, that she was not allowed on campus without clearance, and that she was in his presence for exactly as long as it took him to fill out a district-wide no trespass order with her name on it. She tried the sidewalk line and then tried, "What if I just wave?" He looked at her like she had offered to juggle knives outside the ER and said, "No." She asked if she could at least leave Valentine bracelets for my daughter. He asked for her ID. She pulled it out like a rabbit, proud of the trick. He wrote slowly. She kept smiling until he asked for a mailing address. The smile twitched. The office called because they wanted to keep me in the loop and because they wanted, very clearly, to make sure I wasn't behind any of it. "We're honoring your note on file," they said. "We're sending an email to all parents about outside photography on school grounds." 5 minutes later, an all-call hit my inbox. "No outside performances, no non-staff photography, remember dismissal routes, thank you for keeping celebrations special and simple." It was so beautifully bland that I wanted to frame it. Pickup was delayed by 6 minutes, which my daughter used to distribute paper hearts with stickers she'd graciously graded herself. I watched the last of a chalk heart get power washed off the front walk by a custodian with a stoic expression and a hose like a wand. I saw the purple wig bob away at the far corner, a small and shrinking planet rolling out of orbit, the SRO keeping pace behind her like a shadow that file cabinets. When I got home, there was a certified letter email from the district with a PDF attached, notice of trespass, effective immediately, signed by the SRO and principal, with language that made my bones exhale. Any further attempt to access property may result in arrest. I read it twice, then I sent it to our attorney friend who responded with a thumbs up and a snake emoji, which told me she was in a good mood and ready to draft. Kathy posted a Valentine's Day story about being censored by public institutions with a pink filter so intense her eyebrows turned into highlighter swishes. Then it disappeared. My sister texted me that their aunt had commented, "This is not what community looks like," and my stomach did that half laugh, half flinch thing it does when someone else's family truth leaks into the room. Dad called, voice filled with cotton. "It's gotten out of hand," he said, and for a second I couldn't tell which he meant. He asked to come by. I asked if he was alone. He paused long enough for me to feel every mile between our houses. "Yes," he said. He came with nothing in his hands, which felt like a relief. He sat in my kitchen and stared at the kids' Valentines like they might bite him. Then he told me something I wish I didn't know. There's a binder at his place, purple of course, labeled launch. Inside are printed screenshots from my Instagram from before I nuked it, my kid's photo with a heart sticker over her face and the caption anchor client. There's a page that says pipeline, convert family to advocates, a sketch of my living room with balloon arch written in the margin, and a list of local daycares with checkboxes next to the one she'd cold emailed, using my last name in her signature. He put one of the printouts on the table with 2 fingers like it might burn him. My last name in the contract subject line Jacob had sent me wasn't a mistake. It's how she was pitching. He looked at me and did the thing where he tries to smile and all that comes out is ache. "She thinks if she builds hard enough, the world will move around her," he said. "I don't know how to tell her it won't without being the thing she hates." "You don't have to tell her anything," I said. "You just have to stop handing her the hammer when she reaches for my kid." We sent the binder pages to the attorney. She didn't send an emoji this time. She sent a formal letter that was quiet and lethal and had phrases like false endorsement and unauthorized use of likeness and forgery by signing under a misrepresented name, CC'd to the district's legal and an officer at our local precinct, along with a request to attach the incident number. I went down to the station in my jeans and an old college sweatshirt, handed over a folder with printed screenshots and a copy of the No Trespass PDF and the portfolio clearance/pop star concept email where she'd used my last name like a stamp. I got an incident number that felt like a small steel bar across a door. Serving papers is not cinematic unless your brain likes to add a soundtrack. It happened at 3:50 p.m. on a Wednesday. A process server knocked on my dad's door and Kathy answered in a gray hoodie with the wig perched on a dresser behind her like a wounded bird. She tried to give him a flyer for a neon glow night at a rec center I've now called. He put the packet in her hand and said, "You've been served," and when she tried to hand it back, he took a step away and said, "No, ma'am," so politely it read as a slap. My father stood behind her looking like someone had put his heart on a copier and jammed the paper tray. She called me after. Blocked number, unknown caller, warble of breath. I let it go to voicemail. I listened to her say, "You made me into a monster," and then, a second later, "I am not dangerous," and then, a beat after that, "My heart is too big for your little rules." She has a way of stacking contradictions that would be impressive if it weren't exhausting. I saved the voicemail because sometimes you have to put things in a folder where they can't leak. The rec center canceled their demo after I sent them the district letter. The Pop Star Parties account rebranded for an afternoon into Glow Parties with C. It lasted 2 posts and a boomerang of a lava lamp before getting deleted. The photographer Jacob, who is making penance part-time now apparently, forwarded me a new email she'd sent him in which she asked if he knew any edgy schools that wouldn't mind content. He replied, "No," with a period so flat you could eat off it. My daughter had her classroom party without incident. She came home with a Ziploc bag of paper cards and 2 lollipops and the kind of sugar exhaustion that keeps kids extremely still for exactly 15 minutes. She asked me to braid her hair into 2 sensible braids for dinner, and I did, and we sang the chorus of a song she likes while boiling pasta. Ordinary felt like a revelation. Dad came by the next day. He looked like someone who had finally stopped holding a heavy bag. He said, "She left to stay with her sister," and then he said, "I told her I wouldn't fight you." He touched his coffee mug like it might run away. I told her I loved her and also that no means no. I don't know what happens to them next. I know what happens here. We have a stack of paper hearts on the fridge and a district letter in a folder and a rule that has nothing to do with costumes and everything to do with listening. The purple wig is, according to my sister who can't resist a thrift rack, sitting on a mannequin head at a consignment store 3 neighborhoods over with a hand-scrawled tag that says fun. In quotation marks. It feels right. Someone else can try it on. We're done being the mirror.